People turned to possession by very, very strict ideological ideas, and they were willing to be possessed by those ideas to the point where they would undertake actions that you'd think would be completely impossible for theoretically civilized people. Turned out that those actions not only were not impossible for civilized people, but that the people themselves, especially in Nazi Germany, they pretty much knew what the hell was going on. You don't take several million people out of your population without rumors spreading, let's say. And so, we should never forget that Hitler was elected, and he was elected by a large majority too. It was a landslide vote, the kind of vote that no modern democratic leader ever gets. So, although it's difficult for people to swallow, it's hard not to assign culpability for what happened in Germany to the society at every strata. You can't just dump it on the leaders. And in fact, one of the things here's something to think about with regards to Hitler. So, because one of the things you might ask is, how the hell could he be so absolutely compelling to his audiences? But here I'll give you an explanation. So let's make a few assumptions. And the first assumption is, there are a lot of resentful Germans kicking around. Why? Well, they lost the First World War, that wasn't so good, and then there were a lot of brutal men left because they'd been in the trenches and they'd been fighting and shooting at each other under absolutely abhorrent conditions for like years and years, and so there were plenty of brutalized men around. And then their whole damn economy collapsed because they were forced into signing what historians regard as a very punitive peace treaty, and so everything had fallen apart to a degree that we can't even begin to imagine. And so, in the 1930s, the Germans were starting to get back on their feet, and when Hitler came to power, he started not only to rearm, but to reindustrialize the economy, and he was actually pretty damn good at that. So, now, Hitler was a good orator, but it isn't exactly clear that he was a coherent, philosophical theorizer, although to think of him as stupid is completely missing the point. He was by no means stupid. I wouldn't say that he was particularly educated, but he had a very powerfully developed aesthetic sense, and he spent a lot of his time designing the cities that would be built after World War II was over, and those cities were generally conceptualized by him as places where the arts, or at least the Nazi version of the arts, could flourish. So there's no real evidence that what was wrong with the Nazis was that they weren't civilized. There's more evidence, actually, I think, that they were too civilized.